Well then, I'm ready.
Welcome to the Resistance.
In the near-future London of Watch Dogs Legion, people have become second nature. Displaced by depersonalised technological solutions and brutish private military contractors, the role of the citizen is either to provide data, or their bodies to the handful of paramount tyrants and their infallible machine of oppression. You could argue that Ubisoft didn't even need to bother shifting London forward a few years for Legion's premise to be understood. Things are just as bad now as they ever have or evidently will be. From its announcement, Watch Dogs Legion has been performing a tight balancing act that has only grown more treacherous and ill-advised as the months ticked away. The coronavirus compounded onto Brexit, electoral interference from tech corporations feels commonplace, and cover stories supply a regular rota of images featuring authoritarian brutality. Ubisoft themselves only recently went under the spotlight for years of workplace misconduct and creative autocracy. Whilst Legion has every opportunity to repudiate its technological dystopia for an empathy-driven narrative of community and equality, it unfortunately fails to craft an argument vindictive enough to warrant its bleak outlook or unique team-based gameplay. Legion is just too often torn between innovative ideas and uninspired design. Its obligation to fulfill AAA open-world conventions is just too severe a setback for its revolutionary ambitions. Watch Dogs Legion maintains the focus on underground hacker collective DedSec that was solidified in Watch Dogs 2. Whilst that entry had a central protagonist in Marcus, Legion boldly adopts a play-as-anyone approach. If you've managed to avoid any and all marketing for this game, Legion lets you recruit any Londoner on the street to DedSec, and use their unique traits to get an edge, whether it be in combat, stealth, or just clothes shopping. The best part about play-as-anyone is that it just works. Such an incredibly ambitious concept sounds doomed to fail, but for the most part Legion pulls it off without exposing any of the technical underbelly. Recruitment is as straightforward as bookmarking someone to your team, approaching them and helping them out. Some people will take a bit more work if they initially dislike a DedSec, whilst others are as simple as taking out a harasser or retrieving files from a database. Applying the essential Deep Profiler upgrade lets you see each individual's 24-hour schedule, as well as any potential leads. Maybe prioritising their medical appointment might earn some goodwill, or seeking and helping out any family members. Approaching Legion as a non-linear detective game is easy when it's at its most enjoyable. There are few open world games that make every individual citizen feel as integrated and important. Turning on permadeath only heightens this as you grow to rely on each recruit's skills and unique talents, only for one fatal error to gut them entirely from your roster. In terms of progression, however, Legion falters in making each individual feel truly vital to your team. Tech points awarded for mission completion or discovered across London can be invested in either gadgets, spiderbot drones or turrets for example, or hacking upgrades like the Deep Profiler or distracting enemies for longer. Whilst each DedSec recruits maintain their unique traits, these upgrades carry across for the entire team, somewhat diluting any strategic potential when picking certain recruits for the job. If you can buy powerful non-lethal weapons for all recruits, unique ones feel less impactful. Instead of individually leveling up and enhancing your recruits, Legion homogenizes the team building process, but aside from a single exception, it never actually allows collaboration between recruits in missions. The vast majority of Legion's missions suffer from failing to capitalize on its own innovation. Through accommodating so many ability permutations, every mission feels like a retread of the last. Whilst there are a handful of special burrow missions that provide splashes of creativity, there's only so many times you can be expected to infiltrate a restricted area, hack a server and get out before the routine sours. Given this is the third entry in the franchise, the novelty of scoping out areas with surveillance cameras or remotely arming explosive traps is completely absent, an absence that no pipe puzzle nor snarky expletive-filled dialogue can fill. With no primary protagonist, Legion's narrative focuses on its cast of villains, from the malicious clan Kelly Gang, or the private military group Albion, who have taken on the responsibility of protecting London's streets any way they see fit. Whilst your cheeky AI companion Bagley and DedSec leader Sabine provide some sense of continuity between missions, the lack of any true character arcs or development ultimately harms Legion's narrative in the long run. Racing from grim subject matter like human trafficking to classism, all our characters can do in response is crack a sorely misjudged witticism, or the usual, hack and get out. Legion's writing is densely packed, but extraordinarily shallow. It's crying out to say something, but never finds the words. On the bright side, when you're not grinding through story missions, there's an awe-inspiring recreation of London to explore. Even on current-gen hardware, textures and lighting look fantastic, and given this is all about recruiting civilians, there's a lot of them. Even minor details like roads feeling more cramped in contrast to American-set open-world games really sets it apart. I've been waiting years to play this kind of game in a setting that I vividly recognise, and whilst Legion has its fair share of flaws, there's no denying finding familiar landmarks or taking a stroll down South Bank didn't put a smile on my face. Taking that into account then, it's only more disappointing that London feels so sparse of activities compared to its predecessor. Watch Dogs 2 encouraged exploration with a sightseeing side quest, taxi driver missions, and a brilliantly emulated mobile camera app. Legion only offers delivery missions, darts, and a rudimentary football keep-ups rhythm game. Shops don't even have interiors, with all your interactions going through wall-mounted touchscreens. Even with recruitment clearly playing such a critical role throughout Legion's development, it's difficult not to feel the sacrifices evidently made in several other areas. That finally brings us to performance. I reviewed this on PS4, and whilst I plan on revisiting it on PS5 when its patch releases, I cannot overstate how dependent on next-gen hardware this game feels in its current state. There's noticeable pop-in, frequent audio skipping, crashes, freezing if you drive too fast, mission-breaking bugs, and slowdown across the board. Perhaps its most egregious issue, something that will inevitably be smoothened out on new hardware, are the extensive loading times, sometimes over a minute long. On the PS4 at least, this game is constantly stopping and starting, whether you're entering a safe house or triggering a cutscene. All these minor issues add up to a lethargic experience that, despite imminent remedies with incoming powerful tech, does not excuse its subpar performance on current hardware right now. With its unprecedented recruitment system, Watch Dogs Legion sets itself apart from other open-world titles, but frustratingly never makes good on its potential. London is an engaging playground with little interactivity. Its narrative possesses noble intentions but never rings true, and recruits lack the individuality necessary to transform them into protagonists of their own stories. Whilst Legion stresses the importance of communal empathy in an era of big data and technological warfare, it nevertheless utilises technology constantly as part of its own proposal for a more considerate, caring world. Whilst there's room for Legion's mechanics to expand on their promise in the future, it's difficult not to feel that this dog has had its day.